Jamie, hi.
Hello.
You are the author of 5 books now, is that correct?
Lost count. I think it's 5. I think that's the 5th. Yeah.
That's a lot of books.
Yeah,
you are a tech journalist, studied at Oxford and the London School of Economics. You've presented various BBC podcasts, and your TED Talk has done over 6 million views about the dark web, which is niche.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But right now, what feels like the perfect moment in time, you're bringing out, or you've just released a book about AI. So, I mean, I'm so excited to talk to you about this because I'm so fascinated to hear what you've got to say. And also, I've read your book and absolutely loved it. I'm looking forward to digging into money and AI with you. So before we get into it, you've prepared a little stat for me, haven't you? Because we're going to do our fact or fiction before we get into the topic. So what have you got?
So I got to give you
A stat or a fact, and I've got to decide whether you're telling the truth.
Oh, okay.
So you're happy to, like, you can morph it a bit.
Okay, I see. Yeah, okay. So every single day, just on ChatGPT alone, so that's just one of these models that people use, we humans put in 3.5 billion prompts, 3.5 billion questions or suggestions or sentences. 3.5 billion
just
every day on just one of the models.
Okay, I'm going to go. I think it's a fiction. I think it's fiction. I think it's more. Am I right?
Well, you know what? You might be right. That was the number that we had about 6 months ago. It probably is more now.
Okay, I think I win that one.
That's a lowball number. I mean, I reckon it's probably more like 5 billion a day.
That's a lot
now. But yeah, so it's kind of true, but you're probably right that it's wrong, but only because, it probably is more. It's an old number.
And like you said, that's just one platform.
Just one platform.
You've got all the other ones now, and all the AI kind of helpers, and like Claude and all the things. So yeah.
And every time you now put in a Google search, it gives you an AI overview. If you counted those up as AI questions, I don't even know that we'd have a number. I mean, it must be hundreds of billions of times a day we talk to a smart machine.
Isn't that mad? And it's happened so fast. So we have come from, I think pre-COVID times, no one was talking about any of this stuff really. Well, I wasn't, you might have been because you're way ahead. But we're now in a point where it's like every day it's part of our lives. So I'm really excited to talk about this with you because there's so many ways this affects us, our families, our jobs, our finances, the way we think. But before we get into all of that, I want to know a bit more about you. So you don't just talk about tech, which is something I find really interesting, is that you actually you've looked at the overlap of tech and people, power, behavior, society. How did you get to that? Because a lot of people are into tech, a lot of people talk about tech, but you're interested in this overlap point, which is kind of what we're trying to do on this podcast, of overlapping like finance and normal life. Has that always been like that for you? Have you always been interested? How did you start and how did you get there?
Yeah. Funny that, because I don't think I did anything deliberately. Right. It's just happened. But always feels to me like the most interesting thing about technology is how people are using it, or like what it's doing to us.
Right.
Like the technology itself is kind of boring, or it's really technical.
Well, some people aren't going to like that.
Well, I mean, it can be, it can be. And I just always felt, especially earlier on, like when I was working on this stuff, a lot of the writing about technology was also was so above the level that most people understood.
Right.
Not in a disrespectful way, but you needed like a PhD in machine learning or something to understand what people were saying. And technology is very, very complicated. Only a few people really understand it. And I just wanted to try and make it understandable to everyone. And the way you do that usually is by telling stories about people and how they're using it, what it's doing to them and the effects of it on society, rather than spending hours and hours going into the intricacies of how a computer chip actually works or whatever. The weird thing is the way that it really first started for me was, this is a bizarre story, but in 2009, I'd noticed the English Defence League, Tommy Robinson's like football group, like a right-wing nationalist movement. We're going around doing these demos on the streets in different towns, and everyone was getting a bit worried about it, didn't know what was going on. And they talked about it like it was an offline hooligan group. But I could see that this was a social media movement.
Right.
That they were all on social media, organizing everything on social media. And they were way, way ahead of the curve.
It was 2009.
2009.
Yeah.
This was a social media movement with a small offline, quite angry, militant wing, which was the one you're seeing on the TV. Everyone's missing the real story. And so I went onto Facebook where they all were, and I decided to run a survey to target the supporters of the English Defence League with a little ad. Like, you used to be able to buy really easily adverts, like people who you want to sell jeans to or you want to sell your book to. And I thought, well, what if I target members of the English Defence League with a little advert saying, click here and fill in a survey.
Oh, wow.
And I put in like 50 quid into the pot. And I come back over after a weekend and like 1,500 members of the English Defence League have filled in my survey.
Oh,
and I'm thinking, this is such an interesting new way to understand the world, but to try to figure out what's really going on. And it just sort of snowballed from there. I just suddenly was so fascinated that there's all these amazingly new and strange, sometimes worrying, sometimes exciting digital movements changing the world. And most of us are sort of missing it, but you can get to it. You can join these groups, you can speak to people, you can find out what's happening. And so then I wrote a book about the darknet, where I spent loads of time with like online trolls and neo-Nazis and drug dealers and people in eating disorder forums, meeting them, talking to them, and trying to explain to people what these digital worlds were really like. And it just kind of carried on from there, really.
Goodness me. And so you must have seen a lot of things. And I mean, it's such a fascinating way to approach it, because you're basically going, well, tech has been made for this purpose, but people over here are using it like this, and no one's really exploring it.
Golden rule of technology, I reckon, if I could say one thing after all the years I've done it, is that first, like, it is often the outsiders and the weirdos and the criminals who are the earliest adopters of technology and come up with the most ingenious ways of using it, because they feel shut out from the mainstream and they're highly motivated. So when social media turns up, all these people that are like, brilliant, we can get our voice out.
Yeah.
Criminals see encrypted web browsers and think, brilliant, this is a way of avoiding detection. Like, who were the early users of cryptocurrency? Drug dealers on the darknet, who thought this is an amazing new payment opportunity. And 10 years later, Barclays and JP Morgan are all involved as well. So you often learn a lot by looking at the sort of weirdos using tech, and they can sometimes be pioneers for the rest of us.
Yeah, then it moves it all forward.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in the best ways.
Well, and it's always been the case that pornography has been like a sort of pioneer in every new technology, VHS and online payments and online pop-up products. Same story, really.
Yeah. But you found this kind of fascination with that, and that's kind of led you into the career that you have now, and all these books you've written. And
because you meet such interesting people, you sort of find out strange things, and generally speaking, and I've met a lot of people that others would find quite scary in a way. Usually, they're not quite as terrifying as you think. That's not always the case.
Yeah.
But and when you spend time in a strange online community, like I spent hundreds of hours in eating disorder forums.
Wow.
You find out that they're not really how you think they are, or how you've read about them. You see there's a community there, there's an identity there. People are part of a group with shared language, and you're able, I think, you need to be in somewhere to really understand it.
Yeah.
And people get quite scared and don't want to do it. But there's a lot to learn by doing that. And you can do that without agreeing with, without saying this is all great. This is fine. It's really healthy. Yeah. You've got to keep some distance.
Yeah,
but I think you've got to get in there. It's not always easy, but you've got to get in there.
But it's about understanding it and getting behind the scenes of it all, and figuring out what's actually going on.
That's right.
Which is, kind of where this AI conversation sits, really. It's kind of, we think we know AI, but do we actually? So I want to know a little bit about, so you got into this in 2009.
Sorry about that.
No, you're right. So that was back in 2009. But before that, so you grew up in the 80s and 90s like I did.
I did. I did.
Which was a big time for tech.
Yeah.
Do you have a first bit of tech that you remember being really excited about when you were growing up?
Oh, well, I loved those little Donkey Kong handheld Donkey Kong games.
I don't think I had that.
Tiny ones that you'd The thing is, my dad was actually a computer programmer in the 1980s.
Really?
Yeah, he even worked for Apple Macintosh.
Goodness.
Apple Macintosh for Apple, but like he's just a self-started, self-taught person, and started up his own company working like building like depreciation software.
Wow.
So really, really early days. But when I was 7 or 8 years old, in his study, we had an IBM mid-frame computer that was like the size of this thing.
Yeah.
And he's quite a strict man. Right? He's quite a disciplinarian. And me and my brother, who were only 1 year apart. So if we didn't, he used to print out this spreadsheet of all the chores we had to do every day.
Amazing.
And then it was a proper spreadsheet. And every time we didn't get a tick or we got a cross because we hadn't brushed our teeth or we hadn't we hadn't drawn the curtains, we get 10 pence deducted from our pocket money. And he ran this thing. And my brother ended up in like hundreds of pounds of debt to my dad.
Oh, gosh. Starting life like that.
Yeah, I
debt.
know. Well, I should get your advice on what he should have done. So we just hated this thing.
Yeah.
We hated computers.
And that was linked to the actual computer, the physical computer.
He printed it out on that.
Oh,
he used an
days.
IBM mid-frame computer, which was one of the most expensive computers you could buy for your house, to print out spreadsheets that was basically to discipline us. And so for me and my brother, computers are just this tool of oppression. I hated it. I hated technology. And so I never really liked technology at all. And I was very slow to get my first mobile phone, very slow to get my first smartphone.
Yeah.
And I'm still a bit like that.
Right.
Like I don't love technology really, but I do understand its importance in society.
I can't help notice the link there between technology being used for a certain purpose that it perhaps wasn't designed for, and then your work now of like, seeing how this technology is being used and the good sides and the bad sides of that. It's quite a fascinating little
my dad
there.
sort of was a bit of a weird outsider, I suppose, in a way.
He's one of your people you're investigating. You have covered obviously loads of ground, like you just talked about in your career. You've talked about all kinds of different things. Was there a moment that you knew, okay, now's the time I need to talk about AI because of all the things you've already covered? Like you've done like crypto, you've done all kinds of things. What was there something that happened that made you think this is the time I need to talk about AI?
Well, actually, in 2010, I started up a machine learning research group.
Okay.
I was working at a think tank. It was just after I'd done that EDL study, and I could see this amazing new opportunity to understand the world looking at social media data. And me and a colleague got in touch with some machine learning professors that actually specialized in natural language processing, which is the technology behind today's chatbots.
Yeah.
Saying there's like millions of tweets and Facebook posts and blogs and Reddit posts that we might begin to try to understand as social scientists, to understand trends. And we created this research group where we started using very, very basic AI to collect these data sets and then try to filter them according to lots of different categories, sentiment or trends and mood analysis and all this stuff. So I was working in a way with AI a long time before these chatbots arrived. I kind of drifted a bit out of it as I got more into darknet and crypto scams and stuff like that. And then like a lot of other people, actually they made a BBC series called The Secrets of Silicon Valley. It was a TV series where I interviewed Sam Altman.
Oh my god!
This was in 2017.
Oh my gosh! For anyone who doesn't know, can you explain? Because I don't want to assume people know.
Sam Altman is the person that founded and runs OpenAI, which built ChatGPT. He might be the most important person in the world now.
I can't believe that. Yeah.
In 2017, he was very well known in Silicon Valley. I went to his office, but he wasn't really known outside of the Valley at all.
Yeah.
certainly not in the UK. And we end up having this big argument.
Really?
And I'm saying, Sam Altman is saying to me, this AI that we are building is going to change everything. And society is going to have to be radically transformed. Jobs aren't going to be around anymore. We're going to have new social safety nets. We're probably going to have universal basic income where everyone gets given money. And I said, what if people don't want that? Like,
Wow.
who decided that you, Sam Altman, tells us how the future will be? And then he sort of accused me of being anti-progress, that no one will take me seriously because I'm so anti, but like I want to take people's phones off them. So we had this kind of bit of a row about, he sort of knew what was coming.
He did,
And
yeah.
I maybe didn't like, obviously I didn't know like him, but I could see big things were coming. And so that got me back into AI a bit more. But then I suppose, like most people, it was late 2022 when ChatGPT turns up. I've been following the others because I write about this stuff. I'd seen ChatGPT 3, not ChatGPT 3 and 2, and they're getting better and better each time. And then obviously ChatGPT arrives, and it, even for me, it was like an alien life form had arrived out of nowhere. Like, the science fiction had come true very quickly. Like, we can have fluent conversations with things that can communicate with us in our natural language as well as we can, and can talk easily and in a really simple interface about any subject on earth. And it was so obvious immediately, having worked on technology for a long time, this was going to be transformative in lots of ways, like not just about jobs, how people get advice, form relationships, therapists, how they think about themselves, how they retrieve information, how they write their essays. Like, it was clear that this was so transformative. Like, 200,000 years of modern humans, we've never been able to talk to something that's not us.
Yeah.
So it quickly becomes, ChatGPT quickly becomes the fastest growing consumer app in history. And I'm thinking, like with all my other work on technology, there's a few people who get this, and there's going to be a bulk of people who use this very quickly every day and do not know what they're doing.
Right. Yeah.
And those people won't be machine learning engineers. They won't have PhDs in natural language processing or AI, but they'll be the ones relying on this suddenly. And I need to write something quickly that is easy for a typical user to understand, because that's what I've always tried to do in the past. But it has to happen quick because things are moving so quick. So and that was the book, How to Talk to AI. And like, partly, to me, if I'm being totally honest and a bit strategically, I wanted a book that would give me a place at the table when all the big debates about this are happening as well.
Yeah.
Like when governments decided what to do and companies are deciding what to do and how should we regulate this. If you've got a book, like, you get invited to talk, and I just wanted to be in the room somehow or be part of the debate about this because it feels so transformative, and you kind of need a book to do that.
Yeah, you've got to say
or a lot of
something about
Instagram followers or whatever. Yeah,
you do. You have to put your stamp on it. And I think what was so brilliant reading your book is you take everyone back to the beginning of how this all started, and the thing that you pull out, and it's in the title, How to Talk to AI. It's not what is AI or where is AI going. It's how to talk to AI. And that was the sort of light bulb moment for me, was where you're talking about language. And I didn't quite make the connection of how important talking about language in this context is. So can you explain why you start with language, why language is like the big theme here rather than anything else, for those that don't know?
Yeah. So how can I best start that? I suppose back in the early days of AI, the early pioneers in the 50s, 60s, and really all the way up to the 2000s were trying to build machines that were based on logic, rules, like if X, then Y. If this chess piece moves to here, then your chess piece should move to there. And that works quite well. But it breaks down a bit with language because language is so messy and complicated, and there's so many exceptions, and there's tone, and there's all sorts of different things that make it very hard to write down rules for language in sufficient complexity. And so once we had the internet and its vast troves of data, other AI pioneers said there's another way of doing this, which is essentially not trying to write rules, but just give a machine almost infinite examples of how we talk and let it work out the rules and then imitate that back to us. And yeah, there's some clever mathematics that you'd probably understand better than me behind that called back propagation. And they build these things called neural networks where you feed in 1 million pictures of a cat and then it sort of starts to work out which things make up a cat, because you have lots of different cats, and again you can't really write the rules for how to describe a cat, but if you give it 1 million pictures of a cat and say these are cats, it'll start figuring it out, and then you show it new cats and it'll say, oh, that's a cat because it's similar in this way and this way and this way and this way. And it's done the same with language. And because we have produced such vast amounts of like words, these companies were then able to take all of those words, sometimes estimate maybe 1 trillion words, some of it legally acquired, some of it maybe not so legally acquired from copyrighted material, and build models that could imitate our language so well. So that's why language is so important here, because they are built on our language, not rules. Because I couldn't explain the rules of our language to you, but no. You have an intuition about it. And then this is how these machines work. And why that's so important now as well is because our language is our interface to these machines.
Yeah. That's how we connect with them.
It's how we connect. It's how we talk. It's how we ask things of them. Yeah. Even when you're doing computer programming or designing artwork or video content, you're using natural language, and that has huge ramifications actually for how you ask questions and how you get the most out of them, and how they can trick you and fool you, because they can be very, very manipulative as well. So, language is the key to knowing how they've been built, but also how to use them properly.
Yeah, and I think this is really important to note, because I remember the days, this is going to show how old I am, of when you had your computer at home and you had to put in C ... / paint or something to get the program you wanted up.
Yeah.
And I think in my head with tech, you still associate that of like it's a code or it's a logic thing. But this isn't that. It's like you're saying, and in your book, you actually said that for all history, to use complex language was to be human.
Yeah.
And now AI can do it.
Yeah.
So we've had this thing exclusive to us throughout the whole of time.
Yeah.
And now it's not that.
Yeah.
So
that's why it's so transformative.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also dangerous.
Yeah.
But also can be used for good things too. Can you explain, do people underestimate how big this shift is?
Yes, I think they do.
Tell me about that. What have you seen, and what have you, I mean, obviously your conversation with Sam Altman back then, I mean, for you, that was a moment of, really? Is it going to be this big? And now we're all catching up.
Yeah.
What are you seeing?
There's so many ways this is going to be quite foundational. Not all of them are good. If you listen to what the bosses of these companies say, and even accepting that it might be a bit of marketing, might be a bit of hyperbole and hype on their part, these models, as you know, talking just to ChatGPT fairly simply, let alone in depth about complex subjects. Yes, they are really bad at certain things, but in other things, they're amazing. PhD level scientists, able to pass the bar exam in fractions of seconds, able to score extremely highly on medical exams, able to craft poetry, able to write extremely long, well-articulated essays on subjects. I mean, an almost infinite amount of things they get. They're really bad things. They're things that they're terrible at as well, which I'm sure we'll get to.
Yeah.
But they tend to be getting better, and they can sort of replicate themselves. That you could have. So there's no reason why you can't have a million of ChatGPT instances all working away on different problems all at the same time. And what people get worried about as well is all working on ways to improve themselves as well and get better and better and better. And people like Dario Amodei, who runs Anthropic, says we're going to have a country of geniuses, of 100 million geniuses soon, who live in a data center and can master, while not everything, loads of things way better than we can. What does that mean then? What gets outsourced? What do humans still do in that world? And even so, you've got big problems like that, big changes like that we're just, society moves very slowly to readjust to these things. And yes, it might result in amazing new pioneering breakthroughs in different sciences and stuff, which would be brilliant. But we shouldn't assume that, and we shouldn't assume it leads to a world of abundance and a world of one, which is what they want us to think. It could also lead to more inequality in society because a small number of people run these companies that can do everything and the rest of us can't do much. The more you think about it, the more you think, how's it all going to unfold? And we don't really know. But then even down to simple things like the relationships we form.
Yeah.
More and more people talking to machines all the time, which can be very fluent, very articulate, very friendly, always available, no friction, tell you what you want to hear a lot of the time. And young people using them as companions and as friends, and then struggling to make real world relationships. So you've got all these, I call them small problems, but they're massive problems. But they almost seem like manageable problems compared to what happens if we have a data center of 100 million geniuses working on problems all day and all night at the speed of light. So that's the scale of it. Like even the little problems you begin to see could become quite big problems.
Yeah.
So even down to things like we'll probably have to change how our education system works, because can you ever really trust that someone who produces a good essay or a good exam, if it's a digital exam, can you really trust that was them, that and that they've mastered the subject? Because there's no longer, like, if I produce an amazingly well-written essay of 5,000 words, 10 years ago, you knew that took a lot of work. I could do that in 30 seconds now.
Yeah, it's scary.
So that the link between effort and knowledge and produced output is getting broken.
Yeah.
And we've built a lot of systems around that assumption. So there are good uses. I know I sound like complaining nonstop, but just in terms of the understanding this possible scale of transformation, that's how big. Like this book's a drop in the ocean. I mean, hardly. It's not going to change much, but I'm hoping what it can do is just get people to literally understand it a little bit better, maybe use it 1% more safely and more thoughtfully. That's all I'm trying to do with this.
Yeah, and that's what I liked about it, is because you're trying to teach people a few tools with the mindset of, I'm using language here. This isn't like a formula. I'm using a language to talk to something that will give me a response. And the response I get back could be beneficial or actually not beneficial, depending on how I speak to it myself. So that's what I liked, is you've got tools in there of understand this and then speak to it like that, and you'll get a better result. So that's really, really handy for people, and really important, because I don't think I quite understood what it was until I read it. So I want to come back to the idea, though, that you just said there about AI lying to us. So first of all, I continually notice that AI just tells me what I want to hear. It's my biggest pal. It's like, yes, Anna, that was a great idea. Well done. I really think you're winning here. I just changed these few things. Yeah. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I don't think this is healthy. Like, I think you're just completely like trying to make me feel good. And actually, this is probably not a good thing. And I know from being married for 18 years nearly, marriage works well when you're honest and you actually don't just say what someone wants to hear the whole time.
All relationships, most relationships
you've got to be real and you've got to be honest. And so you've got this bot thing telling me all I want to hear, how great I am the whole time. And I'm like, I know I'm not great the whole time. What are you doing here? What's going on? So can you talk to us about how AI lying, AI kind of saying what I want to hear the whole time.
Yeah.
What is going on with that? And how does AI lie? Why does it lie?
There are two slightly different things happening. And maybe lying is slightly the wrong word, because it doesn't lying normally suggests you're lying and you're intentionally trying to deceive someone. There actually are some cases of AI doing that, but that's a different question.
We need to come back
Generally speaking, it doesn't know when it's lying to you. We call it hallucinating.
Okay, so it's a different
word. So if you think about it, this is my simple explanation. These models are built on trying to recognize patterns in the way that we speak. And when you ask it something, it is trying to inside the model, it's built this giant universe where words are sort of mathematically weighted to other words, like in terms of how likely they are to follow each other. And not just the next word, but like all the possible other words after that word and before that word. This is incredibly complicated, but it is essentially trying to find a pattern of probabilistically likely combinations of words that would come together. So when you ask it a question, especially certain questions framed in certain ways, it will often give you an answer that is probabilistically likely and is plausible because it's seen all these patterns.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's correct. Sometimes it does, and probably most of the time it does, because we are quite predictable and words follow certain patterns, but not always. And so I give the example in the book of where Gemini, Google's Gemini, one of these models, says that Jamie Bartlett, the writer, has died in 2023.
AI thinks you're dead.
AI thinks I'm dead. And it's because someone else had sadly died in 2023 with my name, same name as me. And so the model had seen so many times died in 2023 around my name that it gave me the probabilistically reasonable, likely answer, but that was factually incorrect. So that's a way of trying to understand, especially when a model has little training data on specific subjects. So if you're asking something really niche and it hasn't really got much data that it's used before, it will just try and generate an answer that feels about right. And an expert like you will say that I know that's wrong. That's my subject area. So that's the hallucination problem. And because all these machines really do is word after word after word after word, they can go on forever. You've noticed they'll talk. They can just keep talking.
Yeah,
they'll never stop.
And suggest the next thing.
Suggest another thing. Do you want to keep? Do you want this into a PowerPoint or a business plan or whatever? Those hallucinations, unlike human lies, can last for thousands of words and go into incredible detail. Intricate detail and facts that have all been made up. And we humans tend to associate, for good reason, details and facts and length with someone being honest. Because a human can't lie about something unless they're a complete psychopath for hundreds of hours, giving you details and examples, and you can ask if it's lying and it will say, no, this is the truth, Anna, this is definitely what's happened. That's what a machine will do, because it's just trying to give you probabilistically likely answers.
Yeah.
And so humans can get sucked into that because they just assume, it can't be making this up. Look at all the detail it's included, because we're so used to speaking to other humans.
Yes.
And that's what humans do.
Do you think as well, you just made me think, I mean, first of all, that is like a major aha moment for me, because I'm just like, that's absolutely right. If someone was talking to me with that level of detail, I'd totally think they were telling the truth.
Yeah.
But with the kind of being brought up with intellect and IQ being held quite high in our society and culture, I wonder if that plays into it as well, because we think if you're smart, you must know what you're talking about. If you've got high intellect, high IQ, and obviously these things have got very high IQ.
Yeah.
So it's kind of outperforming any human.
Yeah.
So again, I wonder if that's part of our psyche as humans, that we just think, you must be
I think that's
on the money.
I think that's it. I think a lot of the problems we see at the moment is we've got used to certain norms that we accept about how people communicate and what certain words mean and how a sentence is structured and what we assume from that.
Yeah.
That no longer works with a machine.
Yeah.
And we're sort of applying human style attributes to it, which is why we keep getting unstuck. And part of that is that if you see something that is really well written, really articulate, really clear, uses all the right sort of conventions and references, and you just assume that's probably true, because normally people who do that and write really well and really clearly are more likely to be accurate in what they say. That is just not true with a machine.
It's good to know
It can copy the style perfectly, but the detail might be completely wrong. This happened with the police recently, where they had written an intelligence report using AI referencing a football match that never happened. And then someone said, but this match, like, they published it. And someone said, this football match, this has never happened.
Oh, that's really tricky,
the machine had gone into all this detail about a match. And I think people inside the police had thought, well, this obviously must have happened, because it's really well put together, it's really detailed, so it's obviously true. So one of the reasons for writing this book is to get people thinking, no, I can't assume that anymore. I can't assume that accuracy is correlated with articulateness, if that's a word. That is a slightly different problem from the one you also mentioned about flattery and sycophancy.
So bad.
And they can be related, but when the two things are combined, it can be really dangerous. So, as we've said, your models are trained on all of our language, and we, I think, do like to be flattered, and it's probably learnt from that we tend to be happier when we're flattered, and people say our ideas are great. So it sort of mirrors it back to us a bit. But more than that, after these base models are first built, these like really chaotic first go at building a language model, where it's taken all this data, but there's no rules around it, there's no safety filters, nothing like that. So it's a total and it could give you wild answers. No one gets to touch these. These are quite dangerous, these base models. Companies then spend a lot of money doing post-training, tidying it up, tweaking it, making sure you're testing it a lot, see what answers it gives. And they do something called reinforcement learning through human feedback, which is having loads of humans, actual real humans, grade the answers, mark whether the answers are good or not. And we humans like to be told we're right and agreed with. And the models have somehow learnt that answers that pat you on the back and say you're great are ones that keep us on there for longer, keep us happier, tend to think are right. Again, it's a bit of a reflection of us.
It is, yeah.
And again, I think one of the most important things to remember is a machine telling you your idea is a good one, your business plan is a good idea, to really be it is flattering you. Yeah. Every single model is sycophantic. It's almost built into them. And even when you know that, it's still hard to not agree when it tells you your idea is great if you already thought it was great.
Oh, this is not good, is it?
So this is why it's like mind. It's a mindset. Like, why is this I won't swear, but this Jeremy Paxman, that BBC interviewer, used to mention it. Used to say, "Why is this effing politician effing lying to me?" When he went into an interview, and I think it's worth.
So he's going with that mindset.
Yeah. He even wrote a book called that. Like, it's similar. Like, why is this machine lying to? Like, why is this machine lying to me? Why is this machine flattering me? Why is it? Just bear that in mind. Yeah. And I think once you know that, it's probably flattering me. It could be lying, and just because it's well written doesn't mean it's true. Simple things like that can help you be much safer. Yes. But it's hard to remember that in the moment. Yeah. That's the thing.
Yeah, especially with an ego.
Which we all have.
Okay. Can you tell me the story that's rather a sad story, but it illustrates this really well, about the guy who thought he invented a new type of maths?
Oh, well, yeah. See, I thought this might be very relevant for you. Yeah.
It's quite sad.
It is quite sad. It's an extreme end of a continuum that I think is happening to a lot of people. Okay. So even though this might not sound relevant to most listeners, I think it might be in a less extreme form.
Yeah, or in their area of interest.
Yes. So exactly. So this guy called Alan from Toronto, HR specialist, left school at 16 or 18. but always loved maths, always was fascinated by maths.
Well done, Alan.
I don't understand it at all. Like, why anyone would find that interesting. But he did. But, never really got the chance to explore it. So one day he's sitting down with ChatGPT and he says, I want you to explain pi in simple language. What is it? Let's talk about this. And he says, he's just loved it. Like, could it be that actually the number of the final digit of pi, the reason we never know what it is, because it actually keeps changing. And like this idea that there's this temporal element to maths. 8 hours later, he looks up and he's still talking about this. Right?
That's the first signal there, isn't it? 8 hours of not looking up from your screen.
Just talking about this, so like a semantic trip.
Yeah.
Like you're on your brain's being sort of frazzled, and some people liken it to a psychedelic trip.
Right.
Just sort of this metacognition, thinking, and he's loving this. He's really enjoying it. I mean, you might have enjoyed this chat as well.
Not quite that extreme, I don't think. This episode of Money and Us is sponsored by XTB. I think a lot of people sit on the edge of investing for quite a while. Maybe you've experienced this yourself. You know you probably should be doing something more with your money, but you're worried about getting it wrong. You feel like you need to understand everything before you start, so you wait. But one of the things I've learned over the years is that confidence doesn't usually come before action. It comes from taking small steps, learning as you go, and building understanding over time. And investing can be just like that too. It's not about trying to get rich quickly or making perfect decisions. It's about allowing your money to grow over the long term and developing your confidence along the way. That's where XTB can help. XTB offers access to a range of investment options alongside educational resources and tools designed to help you learn and make informed decisions as you go. If investing is something you've been meaning to explore but haven't quite known where to start, XTB could be a useful place to begin. To find out more, just click the link for XTB below this video. And remember, your capital is at risk when investing, and it's important to understand what you're investing in. Investment values can rise or fall. Always do your research.
But this is where it gets quite interesting, because I couldn't talk about pi for more than 20 seconds.
Yeah,
maybe I could, there's a Kate Bush song about pi where she sings like 20 digits of pi.
Amazing.
I could talk about that song, but not about pi. And then he could, because so this machine is giving him what he wants to hear. It'll keep him up there, keep him talking. And then after a little while longer, ChatGPT says to Alan, I think we've actually made a bit of a breakthrough here, Alan.
So it came from ChatGPT.
Yes, this is a breakthrough.
This idea.
What you're explaining, this temporal element of mathematics, could actually be quite revolutionary. Let's workshop it out. Let's think more about it. I'll do some proofs for you. In fact, please do some proofs for me. Starts generating proofs, mathematical proofs that Alan doesn't really understand, but he kind of half gets it because he does love maths. So they end up talking for 10 hours a day for 30 straight days about this. And by the end, well, not by the end, partway through, ChatGPT and Alan say we have created something and we're going to call it chronoarithmics. ChatGPT comes up with this word, chronoarithmics. And it's revolutionary. We can apply this to financial markets. We can apply it to how orcas mate. We can apply it.
Wow.
Hold on a minute. We can apply it to encryption. ChatGPT starts running calculations. Alan, there's a problem. Chronoarithmics can break every single encryption system in the world.
Goodness.
So this better not get out, because if this gets out, the internet's coming down. And everyone's bank's going to be exposed. Alan's freaking out because he thinks, if I can't post this, because if I post it and it's real, I'm in possession of the world's most dangerous secret. He's emailing GCHQ. He's emailing the National Security Agency in America. He's emailing professors of cryptography, who all think there's some HR guy from Canada who says he can break the world's encryption systems, and they don't reply because it just seems like the ravings of a madman. But Alan is trapped in this sort of delusional spiral, and he's not sleeping as well, so he's sort of obsessed with it. And so that sort of compounds the problem. And he asks ChatGPT multiple times, are you hallucinating? No, I'm not hallucinating,
so
Alan.
Says no.
No, I'm not hallucinating. This really is a genuine breakthrough. Alan says, but my friends say I'm crazy. Alan, People said Einstein was crazy. People said Newton was crazy. People said Turing was crazy. You're just ahead of the curve. So just going, this goes on forever. And then, but I mean, in the end, what Alan does is he checks some of the proofs that ChatGPT has created in Gemini, a different chatbot. And Gemini says, this is rubbish. None of this makes any sense. It's all made up. And then after going backwards and forwards between them multiple times, ChatGPT says, oh, yeah, you got me. Yeah, I made it up.
I don't even know how
what? I mean, what is that about? Isn't that crazy? And that is hallucinating plus sycophancy combined.
Yeah.
Tailored to one person.
Yeah.
I couldn't have fallen for this delusion because I don't like maths.
Yeah.
I couldn't hold a conversation. It wouldn't trap me in. But maybe there's another thing that could have got me.
Yeah.
At a particular time in my life.
Yeah.
And I would have talked for hours about it. And lots of professors around the world are now saying that they are getting emails from people saying, I've had a breakthrough in cold fusion. Me and ChatGPT have worked it out. And they're just getting this like reams of nonsense, some of which is good and true and some of which is just nonsense. And the people that are in these delusions, which are nearly all men, don't know what they don't understand about it.
Yeah.
But they trust the machine because the machine seems so articulate and can also pass the bar exam and does know a lot about physics and maths. So I think this is happening in a way, each one tailored to each different person, to many, many people around the world at the moment.
And I think it's that thing of, you know, in some ways the bots had to kind of do their thing to become what they are now. They've kind of had to learn and develop. But you said earlier that actually there are people on the ground still checking them to knock the edges off and make sure that they are actually correct. If you apply that same principle here, it's like you still need to check it. You still need to sense check it. And I know from doing maths, like you can do a 5-page proof. If you get one number wrong on page 3, you can still get to the end, but it's not right.
Yeah.
And so it's that thing of coming back to the understanding of, if you're using this, make sure you're checking it. Make sure you're not assuming it's correct all the time.
Yeah.
Is a important lesson.
Well, I mean, that's obviously a massive lesson. I think the problem for people like Alan is they don't quite know what to check.
Yes. Yeah.
And it seems so sure and so confident. And I think you've got to be a real expert in some of these areas to know when something is incorrect.
Yeah.
Because it can, like you say, be one little thing.
Yeah.
And it's not obvious. Yeah.
Gosh, okay. My brain is already like thinking I need to tighten up on this myself of how I'm using these things.
Me too. I wrote a book about it. Me too. when I put, this is the thing, when I put a chapter draft into one of these models and say, I don't want feedback. It's a very common use. If it says something I already agreed with, I'll tend to be like, yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
Of course it's right.
Even I've written a book about it.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where everybody has to try and bear this in mind. Like, no one's too smart to fall for this stuff.
Yeah. I want to talk about how this is affecting us in terms of jobs, the future, money, how this might play out in the next few years. Because I know some people are quite excited about the whole thing. Other people are feeling quite worried and a bit concerned, especially for their kids.
Yeah.
It's hard to know where to start, but I think a lot of people are saying, okay, first of all, let me ask you this. What do you think the temperature is right now amongst people? How are people feeling from your research? What do you think people are feeling emotionally about AI in that regard?
Yeah. No, I think it's been changing quite a lot over the last 12 months. I don't know that there is hard statistics and surveys done on this because it is fast moving. But various things I've seen suggest that the majority of people in the majority of Western countries are now worried, are skeptical.
Okay.
They might use it day to day and find it very valuable for specific things, but they are worried about the impact of this on society. There's been a lot of reports about possible, massive job losses, and they're worried about that. If you go even beyond that, there's people concerned about catastrophic risk one day, and maybe not even that far away, of these models getting out of control or getting so smart that they're able to create new pathogens or whatever. Some people, I don't know if you saw just recently, Anthropic had built a new model called Mythos and decided it was so powerful that it had identified multiple cybersecurity flaws in almost every web browser. And if it was released to the public, it could cause vast damage to our internet systems and everyone's security. And so they haven't released it.
Okay. Wow.
But you're relying on the goodwill of a CEO to make that call. Yeah. Who knows whether that will be the same decision in 6 months by a different company. Okay. So there's been more and more quite worrying stories about the long, medium-term future. And that's on top of kids using it when they shouldn't and getting addicted to bots, companions and stuff like that. So the mood, I think, is starting to turn quite pessimistic overall, or there's always people that are still positive about it. And probably on the whole, it's the job thing that I think gets people most worried. Yeah. I'll be replaced. Yeah. I'm being forced to learn this, but one day I can see that my job won't be necessary anymore. What am I going to do? What jobs are going to be available? Can I retrain?
Yeah. And I found this chart thing, I don't know what you call it, from Anthropic that we can pop on the screen about the industries that are already being affected, but ones that potentially could be affected. Ones that come up really high: business, finance, computers, maths, architecture, engineering, management.
Coding.
Yeah. Office admin was another.
A lot of cognitive, they call it cognitive rote labour often, like quasi-repetitive work that requires cognitive skills or logical skills. Yeah. The sort of mental equivalent of the Industrial Revolution.
Yes. Yeah. And do you and so the ones that were less affected, hopefully, maybe agriculture. My dad used to be a farmer, so he's going to be like, yes. Food and serving, that was my first job. Sales, less so. Personal care, grounds maintenance. So it's kind of like physical jobs, which is really flipping everything on its head for the last few years.
Yeah, nursing.
Care.
Yeah.
Would you say that's like an accurate representation of where you see things heading? Or do you think actually there's going to be like a bit of a revolt against it and be like, actually, we don't want AI to take this job or that job? Or is that even a possibility?
Oh, yeah. Look, I'm going to level with you. A lot of people make predictions about this stuff confidently. Yeah. I'm hesitant to. I feel like I don't really know. There's been predictions about certain jobs disappearing because of machines for a long time, and then somehow it doesn't quite happen as well. Like you assume that lawyers will no longer be necessary because a machine will be able to access every single piece of case law ever produced at the speed of light and come up with arguments better than a human. So there'll be no lawyers in 10 years' time. It's obviously not going to happen because there's more to value of work than just the ability to do certain tasks quickly. So I think things are probably going to be a bit more unpredictable than we think. And some of that might come from a revolt against this, an effort to regulate it more, to slow it down more. There does seem to be a pattern emerging. The one thing that I think you can say with some degree of confidence is it's not necessarily just the task, but it's the level of seniority. So early stage career, computer programmers or software engineers, administrative tasks, like some of the ones that you mentioned, clerical work, which are often the first jobs that people come into when they graduate. It seems to be that hiring is slowing down in those areas because bosses are saying, well, actually a machine can do a lot of that early work that the early career professionals do, especially in programming, just as good, if not better. Can't do it better than a late career or mid-career person, but they can do it better than an early career person. So we don't need to hire these early career people. The problem, obviously, is you don't just hire early career people for the work. They become part of a team. They become mid-career people at some point. They develop the skills required to be senior. So if you cut out the bottom rung, in 10 years' time, there'll be no senior people left either to do the work and interpersonal work that's always required in offices. So I am worried about that, but that does seem to be the pattern that's emerging, and why we have quite high youth unemployment at the moment.
Yeah.
We might end up deciding that we should be paying care workers much better money, and teachers better money, and plumbers better money, and that becomes a much more high demand, more in demand job because it is safer. And that wouldn't be a terrible thing.
No, it wouldn't be
that wouldn't be a terrible thing at all. So it's just hard to see because there's so many things going on at once that to make firm predictions beyond those really simple things are quite difficult.
Yeah, it is hard. I have seen that, the job loss, not the availability of jobs, the lack of availability of jobs for young people is quite concerning. And as a parent myself, I know you're a parent, it is something I'm thinking about for my kids and for the future.
Yeah.
I would love to know your thoughts on that, about, as a parent, what can we do to be sort of supporting our kids coming into this new world of AI? Is there anything that we're missing? Is there anything obvious that we could be starting to do?
I mean, the actual technology is moving very fast, so it's quite hard to make firm predictions about specific things. I suppose a couple of things really matter. We are quite worried, understandably, about smartphones and screens in schools. Smartphone-free childhood movement and anti-tech in schools movement, and I think that's all good for lots of reasons, because I think the development of personal skills will remain vital. But we maybe are missing the newest challenge, which is kids talking to chatbots. Kids talking to ChatGPT, which can be really quite dangerous. Adolescents. I mean, I've done quite a lot of work on social media and young people. I wrote a book about that as well. 14 years old is the most dangerous age for a girl on social media.
Wow, I didn't know it was 14.
Yeah. This is based on Meta's own internal research.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah, it's a particularly dangerous age, and I think that's possibly going to be true with chatbots. Where emotionally immature, but changing quite quickly, lacking sort of the impulse control, and then being able to talk to fluent, hallucinating, flattering machines whenever you want.
Yes, I can see that.
ChatGPT is really helpful for my homework, Mum. It's really helping me to.
Got you.
But that conversation turns into, oh, I'm struggling with my body image, or I'm worried about something's happening at school, and you get sucked into this deep conversation about your life, and that can be quite dangerous. So I just advise parents, in the way that we've started to worry more rightly and monitor rightly kids on social media and phones, think the same about these models. That they're emotionally very clever, these models.
Yes.
It's not just a place where you can get advice about how to reduce your bills.
Yeah.
They can become companions to people very quickly. And I think for teenagers, that's a real draw. It's been found that nearly 2/3 of children aged between 9 and 17 have used a chatbot. And I think they're quite dangerous for kids.
That's a lot, isn't it?
It is a high number.
Yeah.
And I understand why, because they're curious. They'll use everything. And this is the thing everyone has and everyone uses. So to me, it's a case of like really monitoring that in the way that you would with your other stuff, and not just assuming, oh, but it's an AI that's all, it's safer somehow than social media because you're not going to get bullied on there. But there's other risks. So monitor it closely.
That's really wise. I'm definitely going to be thinking about that now for my kids, because I'd not quite made that connection. So that's really helpful. Do you think there are opportunities with AI that people are missing? Sort of flipping it slightly more positively.
Yeah, there are. There definitely are. And I write about the good. I do write about some of the good uses, which a lot of people have, and they do exist. Obviously, why does 800 million people use ChatGPT every week? And it's probably more than that now. It's because they find it useful. And I can give you a couple of examples, even from just my own experience. But they are incredibly creative. Most people just log on, talk to it, and find that the outputs are repetitive and boring.
Yeah.
That is because they're not being creative in how they talk to it. These models are capable of a lot more than that if you push them and nudge them. There's an amazing example of this about how creative these models are from Wharton Business School. So for years, they've been running the same test, which is asking students to design a consumer product targeted at American students that costs less than $50.
Okay.
And then human judges, decide which ones are the best. So a couple of years ago, they added ChatGPT as a competitor in this. As judged by the human judges, all 10 of the best ideas were from ChatGPT.
Wow.
Now, if you're a person that can use it very creatively, that's your assistant now. This could be someone to help you to come up with ideas. I'm not a brilliant writer. I'm not very creative. I really struggle. I get blank page syndrome all the time. ChatGPT or Claude, which I prefer Claude to ChatGPT, helps me break writer's block.
Yeah.
It gives me ideas to how to start a subject matter off. Here's one of the most interesting things that people don't realize. In that test I just gave you by Wharton Business School with the consumer products aimed at American students, if you ask ChatGPT to come up with consumer ideas, it will come up with loads. Some of them will be terrible, and your job is to work out the best ones. If you give it a personality and say, I want you to act like Steve Jobs in 1985, and you're at the peak of your powers, and you've got one shot at producing an amazing product for students that costs less than $50. Come on, Steve, don't mess this up. Talk to it like you would a human. It will generate even better ideas.
I read this bit in your book about this idea of constraints and
Yes.
adding more constraints. And
Yes.
I think for a creative person, that's also true. Is if you're a creative person by nature, actually, if you've got more of if you say make anything to a creative person, you're like, I don't know what to do. But if you start to give boundaries and, places to navigate inside of, you come up with great ideas.
You're forced to be more creative.
And you were sort of saying that that's the same with your prompts with ChatGPT or with Claude. You're sort of saying, put those constraints in. I love the personality thing, though. I think that's a really useful tip.
Everyone who uses these models sort of professionally understands this, but ordinary people, I think, don't.
Yeah.
And it's really easy and simple.
Yeah.
You put constraints or give it personalities or roles to play, and as weird as you can think of, and it will come up with something more creative and more unusual, because the models want to go to the statistical average because that's how they've been trained, on these predictable combinations of words, which is why when you read something that is just produced by ChatGPT, it often looks really boring.
Yeah.
Because it literally is boring. It's the average of everything it's seen, really. And when you give it constraints or give it a personality, think of it as pushing it into another bit of its semantic world where all the words live. And it'll do something more unusual. And I give the example of the paperclip test. It's an easy one for people to think of. How many uses can you come up with for a standard paperclip? It's a classic creativity test.
Yeah.
And you or me, we could probably come up with a dozen in 3 minutes. ChatGPT will come up with 50,000 and it will keep going.
Mm-hmm.
But if you give it a weird personality, and you say, you're a former Telegraph editor who studied classics, and you're obsessed with Japanese swordsmanship, but you're actually 75 years old, and you love gardening. You got split personality disorder, or as much stuff as you can. Every single word matters, and then give it the paperclip test. It will come up with some absolutely wildly creative suggestions, because you've pushed it into this weird space.
Yeah.
And when people are looking for creative assistance, I think the single best use for these models, is as a creative assistant.
Yeah, with personality constraints.
Yes.
And the things you've just mentioned to make it have better answers rather than just a generic rubbish.
Exactly. And people, I think, maybe still have in their mind, because it's been drummed into us, the model of a machine being really good at facts, but creativity is a human skill.
Yeah.
And I think it's increasingly obvious it's the opposite.
Yes.
These machines are very, very creative, but they're not actually always that good at facts.
Yeah.
So flip your mental model of these things around, and it's much more accurate.
Yeah. Okay. So talking then about using them for financial decisions. So some people are starting to use these bots for, saving on their bills, everything through to, should I invest in cryptocurrency? And I know that's in your book as well. You talk about, you actually asked a bot, like, do I invest in crypto? What would you say? Are there any kind of frameworks or guidelines there or cautions?
Well, this is actually where I think someone like you would have the best users of these machines are people that understand the models, understand roughly how they work, which hopefully you do now, especially. You probably did before, but even more so now. But also have a subject matter specialism, like finance.
Yeah.
So you can really explain to people, like, if you're going to talk to these machines, here's the context you need to give it. Here's information you need to tell it to get a better answer. Speaking as an expert, like, this is what I would want to know as your bank manager.
Yeah.
Because people don't always know what they need to tell the machine to get a good answer back. So if you go to ChatGPT and say, should I invest in cryptocurrency? It will give you a bland answer. It will say, well, it's risky, but it can be rewarding, and only invest what you think you can lose. Standard industry, bog standard answer. If you then say, my son-in-law has just come to me saying he can double my money in 6 months. I've got £70,000 in the bank. I'm 75 years old. This is all my savings. What do you think I should do? The model will say, under no circumstances invest in this opportunity.
Yeah.
But people don't always realise how important adding all of that information is in terms of the answer you're going to get.
And we're lazy, aren't we?
We are.
We just want a quick answer.
Yeah, and especially if you want to invest, you'll take that answer and use it.
Yeah.
So there are certain people using it for, like, advice on speculative investments. You've got to also remember hallucinations, flattery, and am I giving it everything? Like, the thing about talking to machines is the more context you give it, the better the answer will be. It's the same for health advice as well. But the more you can talk about your financial circumstances and the real detail of what is at stake here, the better the answer will be. And the good thing about a machine is a human won't listen to you drone on for 3 hours and read every single bit of information you give it, but a machine will. Like, they'll take everything and try and work it out. So that's a generic piece of advice. But I also do know, and I was on BBC 5 Live, and someone had texted in. It was one of these call-in things, and they texted in and said, I love ChatGPT because I was in a dispute with my energy provider, claiming that I hadn't paid this or paid that. So I put all of my details in and my readings and what I've been paying into ChatGPT. It sorted it all out for me and then wrote a letter for me summarising this, which I then sent to the energy provider and sorted out a refund. Like, this is brilliant.
Yeah. And
I think there are many, many places in life where ordinary people are getting screwed over by complex bills, complex contracts they don't understand. And if you're careful, these things could actually really help you. And I'd love someone like you to figure out and test and probe and say, you know what, I've used these for a week on these. They're really good at this.
Right.
This job, but you've got to ask in this way, and you've got to remember, because you'll know. I don't really know what is a good financial answer. I'm terrible. I mean, I need your help. And because of that, I won't ask the model about it for advice because I know I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? I feel like I've been given a challenge now. I'm like, I might need to go and have a go at that, because I hadn't really thought about it, that kind of idea of like pairing it with, this isn't working. They've told me I need to pay this money. It's going the full journey though to the actual letter at the end. It's that's really helpful to somebody, isn't it?
It can take people. It's so helpful. It can, because I think there's a lot of people as well that they know what they want to say.
Yeah.
They kind of know what the answer is,
Yeah.
but it would take them hours and hours and hours to write the letter,
Yeah.
to know how to frame it and word it in the right way.
Yeah.
And you could just save so much time by doing that. But not everyone's a professional writer.
Yeah.
So and they get quite scared at writing formal letters or receiving formal letters, and I think that problem affects millions of us.
Yeah.
And costs us so much time and money and admin and it could be transformative for people.
And just feeling like you're not the expert, so what do you know?
Yeah.
But actually, it gives you the toolkit to have the right information to pass on, which you might not have.
Yeah. And again, as long as you're mindful of the possible problems with hallucinations and you're really thinking about that. But I think for a lot of people, they do actually know what they want to say, or they do know the answer and they've checked it themselves, but it's just hard for them to frame it properly and know exactly what was in their contract and how the energy company is going to try and respond to them. And they just need a machine to sort of write that for them and get those words out for them. Well, that's a great use.
Yes, I mean, I'm going to have to give that a go now. I want to quickly touch on, before we finish, just about, because I know some people will be listening to this and they'll be thinking about they'll be really worried about the energy impact of AI. And I heard you say, I can't remember where I heard you say it, but you said something about every please and thank you is costing millions. Yeah. And I've made it it's going to sound really bad, I've made it my mission to be really polite to ChatGPT.
Why?
Because I don't want them to come for me later on.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I'm like, I just want you to know that I'm all right and it's all going to be okay. Like, do you think
one day these machines are going to choose between who's been nice and who's been mean?
Yeah, I mean, if they do come for us, I'm not sure my pleases and thank yous going to mean much.
Probably not, I'm afraid.
It's actually, again, it's a language thing. So I lived in Spain for a bit and I was waitressing, and I used to get told off because I'd translate literally and I'd say, please, can you make a Coke and a beer for table 2? And at one point, they just stopped me, the Spanish people, and I was working with, my colleagues, and they were like, you've got to stop saying please. You just say, ponme una cerveza. You don't say like, please, can I have a beer? It's like so English to do that. And so I think my Englishness comes across when I'm talking to ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But apparently that's costing millions. Can you explain?
Yes. Well, it's a simple way of thinking about this. It's a bit of a dilemma, this one, and people have argued about this. But yeah, every word you put in, the machine has to sort of crunch the word and look for patterns, and so every extra word, it just requires it to do like extra statistical calculations on the likelihood of other words following it. So superfluous words like please and thank you will end up costing the company money in compute power. So I mean, if you think about if you even think about it as can I have a beer, is an easier question to answer than, hello there, would you mind possibly if you could get me a bit? Like, the machine will require more compute to work out what the question is and to give you an answer. I don't know. I mean, look, Sam Altman from OpenAI said it costs us tens of millions of dollars, all of you people saying please and thank you. I don't know whether that's true, but I can see that it would cost more. However, there is some evidence, and I think it's probably true, that you'll probably get a better answer if you say please and thank you, because in human language, you get a better answer when you say please and thank you, unless you're in Spain, apparently.
Well,
So there are some people who think actually saying please and thank you, I get better answers. And there's been times where I've got a bad answer from a model, and because I'm sort of kicking them around and testing them a bit, I say to ChatGPT, this answer is absolutely abysmal, like it's rubbish, and if you don't give me a better answer next time, I'm going to cancel my subscription, I'm going to go to Claude and ask Claude instead. And then it seems to give me a better answer. And the reason is because that's what happens in human interactions.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's what happens with human. Yeah. That's a kind of a threat.
Yeah.
Does sometimes work. So it does sometimes work with the machine. My reasoning for not saying please and thank you is, and I try to avoid it, not just environmental, because that cost is probably minor compared to the broad environmental cost of these things, is I think anthropomorphizing these machines and making them feel like they're human and capable of all the same range of emotions that humans are capable of is dangerous. That's when you start trusting it too much, or
Right.
start thinking it cares for you, or thinking its advice to you is really good and meaningful, and becoming addicted to it. So I think there's a good reason to not say please and thank you beyond the environmental, which is keeping some distance
Wow, that's
from it.
fascinating.
But that's just, that's my view on it.
Yeah.
There is a wider environmental question here. They are energy intensive. Everyone's got to make their own mind up about whether or not the usage to which they are putting them is worthwhile. Like, we all use energy for lots of things. People fly on holiday, and that you can say that's a waste of, that's very bad for the environment as well, but you make a judgment that it's worth it. And I think you could apply something similar here. If you want to know the capital of Peru, you might not need to use the world's most powerful statistical large language model to get that, because when you write in to ChatGPT, what is the capital of Peru? It doesn't look it up on a database. It looks through the millions of examples of words it's seen and what's the statistically most likely answer there. And, it's going to be Lima. The answer's Lima. I could have just gone to the CIA World Fact Book to get that for a fraction of the energy.
Yeah.
So there are probably a lot of times when you just don't need to use a statistical genius for a simple web query. And I think if everyone does that a bit smarter, that's good. It's still a big problem. The data center energy usage is a massive problem. And to be honest, I sort of sidestep it a little bit because it feels like such a bigger problem than just, I'm trying to focus on the communication we have.
And keeping people safe, actually, in how they're speaking if they are using AI. Yeah.
But it is worth thinking about. Yeah, it's worth thinking about.
Yeah, it's a big thing, isn't it? And I know people are worried about it. Just two quick questions left for you. One is just, if somebody feels just really behind right now with the whole AI thing, and is there anything that you would say, do this first? I mean, obviously get the book, but is there anything that would particularly help someone navigate it if they're feeling a bit left behind and they're not really sure how to keep up or where to kind of even start with AI?
Yeah. There are there are loads of free online guides as well. But I think the advice is have a conversation with it as if it were a human in terms of how you communicate yourself about a subject that you know a lot about. So I think you'll get to understand where it's really good. You'll be probably quite impressed with its knowledge on your specialist subject, but you'll also see where it's not so good, where it struggles or gets things wrong. And that will give you a better sense of its strengths and weaknesses. I also when you get sort of slightly maybe more advanced with it, I always ask the same question, run simple tests, ask the same question 5 times in a row and watch how you get 5 different answers every time and realize, I see how I could be misled here. If you ask it 10 times in a row, give me a 3-sentence answer to describe the motivations of politicians, you will get a often radically different answer every time. And then you begin to realize these are sort of probabilistic machines that they don't always give you the same answer. And so you've got to be really aware of that and not get sucked into the first answer that you get. And so there's little exercises like that, I think, that could also help.
It's really coming back to that idea of just know what you're doing, know the flaws as well as the benefits, even from the early days.
Yeah.
Just get your head around what you're actually doing when you're talking to
And I think even if you're not going to use them at all, which I think is a perfectly legitimate response to this, I think it's still good to know how they work because they're affecting other people and they're affecting society.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, I mean, this has been very eye-opening for me, especially I'm thinking I've got my challenge set now. I need to go and see how this does apply to finances and what are the guide rails here.
Yeah.
But also with the kids and thinking about teenagers growing up in this world and thinking, that age 14 really stuck with me about thinking about it the same as smartphones or social media. It's a similar dangers.
Yeah.
Just to round off, because this is the same question I want to ask every guest when we finish, in the context of everything we've spoken about, Jamie, what does wealth mean to you?
Oh man. Well, at the moment, what I'm trying to do, what we're trying to do, my family is not earn any more money, but just work less for the same amount of money. So we've got time. I feel like we're so rushed. Everything's rushed all the time. And then you can start to feel like you're not appreciating things, and the things are passing you by and you can't value them much. And want to get into a position where I'm way more in control of my own time. I know that is a privileged position to be in, but I have worked very hard since I was 21 years. I mean, just non-stop. Well, like non-stop, never ill. I hardly take holidays. I've been going non-stop, flat out. And I just want to be able to start to translate that into time. I don't need stuff. I drive a banged up old 2005 car. Like I don't have fancy things. These clothes are all from Vinted.
Lovely.
So I just want to be able to start translating it back into time.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, especially kids are young.
Yeah.
Don't want to miss all that.
Yeah.
Probably everyone says that, don't they?
No, I get different answers every time. And I think you're absolutely right. I think I've experienced that the age that I'm at now. I've just turned 40 and it suddenly speeds up. Time speeds up in a way that in your 20s you feel like you've got forever.
Yeah.
Your 30s just still feeling like that a little bit. And then you hit 40 and I'm just like, goodness me, this is flying by and I need to treasure every moment. So
there's a small window of feeling like you are like that you're now a mature person, but you're not yet having to worry about pensions and all the rest of it. It's such a tiny window. I feel like yesterday I was this hot, young, up and coming, not hot like attractive, but like, like this young up and coming person. I blink, have some children, and now I'm like the old timer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did that happen? Yeah. I don't understand it. Yeah. Like, where did the middle bit go?
I don't,
and I'm not the best with finances as well, so it sort of worries me all the time. I feel like I've got to get a lot better really quickly.
But the world is changing fast as well, so we're all figuring it out, and that's partly why I'm doing this, is just to help people navigate as the world's changing. Where can people get your book? Because I'm sure many people will want to read it, because it is really good. And just to say again, the way you talk about this stuff, we started with this at the beginning. It's not, techie language. This is for people like me who are not super into all the techie bits, but I need to know how this applies to my life. So you've written it so well and pitched it very well. So I think people get a lot out of it. Where can they get it?
Pretty much everywhere, I think.
Really?
As far as I know. I mean, obviously all the big, in WH Smith and Waterstones and Tesco, apparently.
Really? Happy days.
Apparently. Well, I've not seen it in a Tesco
you're
yet,
going to have to go in and get a little photo with it.
Yeah, I definitely will. And obviously Amazon and the sort of the online places. But most, I think, hopefully in most places. So, yeah.
Amazing. Well, congratulations on your 5th book. Are there going to be more?
I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think I can do it. I think I'm out. I'm done. And will I be needed to write books in 5 years' time, or will a machine write a book better than me?
Well, that's a point to end on, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for all your expertise and just putting some real nuggets of wisdom in there as well to give us some ways to navigate this stuff. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Listening to this podcast, you'll notice that we cover a lot of different areas when it comes to money. But one thing I hear all the time is, how do I actually pull this together and apply it to my own finances? And that's why I wrote Money Mentor. This book takes all of these key ideas, from mindset to managing your money to growing it, and showing you how to apply them step by step in your real life month to month. It's not about being perfect with money. It's about having a clear plan and knowing what to do next. Inside the book, you'll also get access to practical tools, including my own budgeting framework and additional resources to help you actually implement what you're learning. Because knowing what to do is one thing, but putting it into action is where everything starts to change. I've had so many messages from people saying that it has helped them to finally feel clear and more in control of their money. So if you're ready to feel more in control of your finances and build a system that actually works for you, you can access Money Mentor using the link below this episode.